It was just a casual reunion, a fleeting moment, maybe even unpretentious, but you felt it, didn't you? As if the air changed in density, as if time no longer moved in a straight line, as if that instant carried all the versions you had ever been, and all the versions that could have been if you had stayed together. You sensed it even before your gaze touched, even before your skin got close. It was in the silent vibration, in the jolt your heart gave when you saw him, in your body trying to remain neutral but failing miserably. There he was. There you were. And the whole world outside, suspended, invisible, irrelevant. Your mind tried to disguise it, sought reasons, memories, justifications. But the body knew. The soul had already recognized it. It wasn't just nostalgia, it wasn't just desire, it wasn't just need or lack of closure. It was that kind of awareness that only happens when something still pulses, even after everything that was said. Even after the silence, the choices, the distant paths. You also noticed that he had changed, but at the same time he was the same. The features more mature, the eyes more tired, the energy lower, but the gaze still spoke your name, even without uttering it. And you wanted to pretend you didn't feel it. You wanted to follow the polite, casual, civilized script. But inside, there was an implosion in slow motion, because it was just a reunion. But inside both of you, everything was begging for more. You wondered what would have happened if things had been different. If that day the conversation hadn't turned into a fight, if that decision hadn't been made in haste, if that pride had been swallowed in time, but it was too late to go back, right? Or maybe not, because the reunion revealed something that even you didn't want to admit. That kind of feeling doesn't die. It may fall asleep. It can camouflage itself in other bodies, other names, other distractions. It may even seem forgotten for months, years. But it only takes a second, a spark of energy, a scent in the air, a way of laughing, and everything comes rushing back as if it never left. You didn't want to show it. But he noticed, the way you glanced away and then looked back. How your voice trembled on the second, "Are you okay?" How your hands fidgeted aimlessly as you said something nonsensical, and he tried to appear steady, tried to keep the conversation light, but you noticed, in the middle of each sentence, a strange silence, a kind of hesitation that said more than the words aloud. You realized. Both of you realized. Because when two souls meet again, it's not just the body that reacts. It's as if reality itself bends, if only for a moment, to see what you will do. If you'll still pretend you don't feel, if you'll still pretend you've moved on, if you'll still pretend the story has ended, but it hasn't ended. You know that, and he does too. It may have been buried beneath new promises, under lives rebuilt, under commitments made out of convenience or fear, but it's still there, perceptible, latent, breathing beneath the skin. And if you were honest, in that moment, you would have asked, "Why did you come back today? Why did you look at me like that? Why did the universe put us face to face again as if it wanted to provoke us?" You wanted to ask, but you stayed silent, because you didn't know if you could handle the answer, or worse, the silence. And him? He also held the words in his throat, maybe because he didn't know what to say, or because what he felt was so vast, so raw, that any word would fall short. And yet you both stood there, longer than you should have, listening to each other, and at the same time hearing what wasn't being said. There was an unasked question. There was a voiceless plea. There was a stay disguised as, "It was nice to see you." And when you said goodbye, with that hug that lingered just a second longer, you felt what you didn't want to feel, that you still love, that you still desire, that still dreams. And the hardest part, that a part of you still believes that it's possible even after everything, even with the wounds, even with the mistakes, even with the time that has passed. You felt it, in your skin, in your chest, in your soul. And he felt it too. And no matter how much they've followed different paths, no matter how many new people, new lives, new worlds there are, what exists between you is still there, silent, immense, alive, and the most beautiful and cruel part of all, You never needed to say anything. Because what is real can be felt. It reveals itself in the small gestures, in the way he looked at your mouth when you smiled, in the care he took when asking how you were doing for real, in the hurry to leave, and in the slowness with which he really left. You stood still afterward, taking deep breaths, feeling your heart race for no reason. And you thought this wasn't just coincidence, it was something more. It was a crack opened in time. It was a reminder, or maybe a calling. And since then, something has changed in you. Maybe you went home and pretended everything was normal. You answered messages, handled tasks, fulfilled obligations. But inside, something feels different. Because when an old soul reappears, nothing stays in place. It's as if dormant parts of you awaken, parts that had forgotten how to feel so deeply, to believe with such surrender, to desire without restraint. And now you're here trying to understand what to do with all of this, trying to rationalize what was visceral, trying to put out a fire with arguments, but you won't be able to. Because this reunion wasn't by chance, not this time. It was a reminder that not everything that ends truly ends, that not every goodbye is final, that some bonds are greater than time and deeper than logic. If this has ever happened to you, comment, "I needed to hear this." You miss him, even if you don't want to, even if you won't admit it, even when you say you're fine, and he misses you too, even when you don't say anything, even when you try to move on, even when you seem distant. You carry the same kind of silence, the same kind of longing, the same question without an answer. Is there still time? Is the feeling still enough? Is what's left love? You're afraid of the answer, because you know it could change everything. But at the same time, you feel that if you do nothing, you'll go through life trying to forget something that was never truly overcome. What hurts you isn't the end. It's the uncertainty, the what if. The what if we had tried harder. The what if it was the wrong time for the right people. That what if eats away at you. Because deep down, you realize that there was still more, that there still could be. But that will only be discovered if someone has the courage to go back, the courage to ask, the courage to admit. Have you heard this phrase before? Comment, "I have." And if you still feel it, even after everything, then perhaps the feeling never really left. Maybe it was just waiting for the right moment to surface. Maybe, just maybe, the reunion was the first step. And now? Are you going to pretend it didn't happen? Are you going to bury it again? Or will you allow something bigger to guide your steps? Because you know, even trying to deny, avoid, rationalize, you know, there's something greater at work behind this reunion, something that doesn't rely on your logic, something that moves in the unseen. And when you stop to feel without distractions, without fear, without haste, you can perceive the frequency that vibrates behind all of this. It's not just nostalgia, it's not just loneliness. It's a calling of your soul, a calling of your heart. Our calling from that part of you that is tired of pretending to have moved on from what was never resolved. And maybe you're trying to convince yourself it was just a coincidence. But answer me honestly. Why right now? Why just you two? Why this feeling that insists on returning every time you remember? You might even say you don't want it anymore. But every time you lay your head on the pillow, every time you see someone wearing the same perfume, every time you hear that song, every time you walk by a place that was just for the two of you, your heart still tightens. There's a name for that. And it's not weakness, it's the awareness that no matter how fast the world spins, some connections remain. Sometimes people separate not because they don't love each other, but because they're just not ready to live that love. Because truly loving requires more than just feeling. It requires maturity, commitment, presence. And back then, neither of you knew how to be whole. You loved each other with the pieces you had. But so much was still missing. Courage was missing. Communication was missing. Patience was missing. And today, looking into his eyes, you saw a reflection you hadn't seen before. He has grown, in his own way, at his own pace. But he has grown. And so have you. That's why this reunion felt different. Because it was no longer just a chance encounter, it was an intersection. A collision point between two paths that, even when apart, never stopped touching each other in the invisible. He felt it too. You noticed, in the way he hesitated before saying, "It was good to see you," as if he wanted to say, "I wish I could stay longer." You noticed the contained desire, the over-exaggerated care, the absence of words that screamed in silence. And even without a clear answer, you left there with more questions than before. Perhaps the most important one is, why do I still feel all this if it theoretically ended? And the answer is simple, because what is true doesn't need to be present to exist. It just needs to be felt. Acknowledged, honored, you're not trapped in the past. You're connected to an unfulfilled possibility. And that confuses you, because you don't know whether to revive it or let it go completely. You don't know whether to call, send a message, take a risk, or if you should accept that some stories are eternal even without a happy ending. But I ask you, what if that ending hasn't happened yet? What if this is just a disguised new beginning? If this has made sense to you so far, write yes down below. Because sometimes fate doesn't give up on what we try to bury, and if the universe still insists on bringing you together, it's because something within this story still needs to happen. Maybe not like before, maybe not how you dreamed, maybe in a completely new way, but real, more mature, more aware, more profound. You are no longer the same, and he isn't either. And that's precisely why you both might be ready now. For the first time, truly, you no longer want promises. You want presence. You don't want explanations. You want truth. And if he came back, even without certainty, but with the willingness to live whatever is real, would you have the courage to open your heart again? Or will you allow fear to repeat the abandonment of the past? If there's still something between you, it's because there's something in you that still hopes. Hopes for a message, a sign, an action, hopes for reciprocity, but it also fears. Because you know how much it hurts to give yourself away alone, how much it tears you apart to love without return, how exhausting it is to wait for someone who doesn't come back, but you also know how frustrating it is to suffocate what you feel, to say you've forgotten when you still remember, to live pretending to be whole when you are mended on the inside. So, tell me, is it worth ignoring what you feel or giving voice to what your soul still holds? You don't need to rush, nor decide now, but you need to be honest with yourself. What do you truly want? Because this reunion, no matter how quick, no matter how casual, had the power to turn you inside out. And it wasn't just coincidence, it was the choice of the invisible. It was a chance, it was a crack, maybe the last one. You realize this even if you don't want to admit it, because it's been a long time since you felt that flutter in your stomach. It's been a long time since you felt time slow down. It's been a long time since you felt the urge to start over. And if you let this pass, you may regret it. Not because it didn't work out, but for never having discovered what could have been. Have you ever gone through this? Tell me in the comments. Because the worst longing isn't for those who left, it's for those who almost stayed. For those who touched your world with intensity, but vanished without leaving a survival manual. For those who left without closing the door. For those who said goodbye with their eyes begging stay. And now you're here, carrying a love that still breathes, afraid of appearing weak, afraid of getting hurt again, afraid of being rejected. But what if this time love isn't a wound? What if it's healing? What if the reunion is just the first sign that something is coming back to its place? You still feel. That's obvious, even in your silence. And he feels it too, even if he doesn't say it. And in the meantime, destiny watches, waiting for a gesture, a step, a choice. You know what you need to do, but first, breathe, feel. What is your intuition telling you right now? It doesn't lie. It never lied. Maybe, deep down, you've already decided, and you just need the courage to take the first step. This story is still being written. You realize that, don't you? And maybe you're still waiting for a clear sign, something that says without a doubt, go, try again, open that door, even if you're scared. But the sign has already come, not in the sky, not in magical words. It came in his gaze. It came in the shiver that ran through you. It came in the silence that has been echoing in your chest since that reunion. You noticed. And now what will you do with this? Will you pretend you didn't feel anything? That it meant nothing? That your body just made it all up? Or will you look honestly at what pulses within you and admit that there's still something there that needs to be lived, healed, or, who knows, restarted? You don't need to run to him, you don't need to beg or humiliate yourself, but you need to be true to what you feel. Even if you decide to keep it to yourself, even if you choose not to return, being true to what you feel is your liberation, because what hurts isn't loving. What hurts is holding back. It's pretending to be indifferent. It's lying to yourself that you've gotten over what still cuts through you. If fate wants to bring people together, it will, but it only acts when there's truth. And your truth now is a single one. You still feel. And feeling isn't weakness, it's strength, it's presence, it's proof that something in you is still alive. Now, the decision is yours. But whatever it is, make it whole. No denial, no disguise, no fear of self-awareness. Finish this sentence in the comments. Reuniting with someone I loved was right from the heart. You never know who might heal by reading what you've experienced. If this video really touched you, give it a like. It's just a click, but it helps this message reach those who need it most. And more importantly, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now. This channel is a space for those who feel deeply, for those who can't stand shallow answers, for those seeking truth amidst the chaos. Here, you'll never feel alone. The conversation that started here continues in the next videos. And if this reunion made you tremble inside, the next one will show you what to do when fate calls again. Click here beside me and come along. I'm waiting for you there.